The Nashville Number System is one of the most powerful tools in a worship songwriter's tool belt. That's why in this video, I want to walk you through the easy steps into understanding what it is, and more importantly, how to incorporate it into your writing and worship leading. So let's jump in. Hey, my name is Brian, and I am a worship leader and a songwriter, and I've been doing that for over 10 years for the church, and I have a passion to help other people do what I do because I believe that God has called many of us to write songs for Him through His local church. Like I said in the beginning, I feel like one of the most powerful tools that we have in doing that is the Nashville Number System. But I feel like a lot of people on worship teams especially get intimidated when they start hearing about numbers because they think it's music theory, and they think that music theory is very scary and overwhelming. And in my experience, the Nashville Number System actually frees you up to actually be more free in your writing and worship leading. And so that's why I wanted to make this video, because I've looked on the internet to try and find, actually, the origin for this exact video was I was looking to find a worship leading / worship songwriting specific video for my worship team. And there's a lot of great videos out there, but I didn't see that many or any specifically pointed to worship teams, worship leaders, worship songwriters. So I wanted to be that guy and make that video. So you're watching it. So let's do this. So I promise we're going to jump into the nitty gritty and actually use some examples and how the Nashville Number System works. But first, what is it? It's simply a way to give numeric value to a chord. So instead of saying I'm playing this progression, C major, F major, A minor, and G major, I would say I'm playing the 1, 4, 6, 5 progression. Simply, that's all it is. And if you have any basis on piano, it's literally just the way you count fingers. It's the intervals of the scale. So to quickly illustrate that, meet Rosie, my handy dandy guitar. So in the key of C, the chords are C, which is the 1, D minor, which is the 2 minor, 3, which in the context of worship usually means a slash chord, 1 with a 3 in the bass. So that's the key of C is a C chord with an E in the bass. So we see that chord all the time. Next, the 4 chord is the F, 5 chord is the G, 6 chord is the A minor, and the 7 chord is usually a 5/7, which means the 5th note of the scale with the 7 in the bass, which in the key of C, the 7 is the B. So technically, it's a G over B chord. So to break it down even simpler, if we're using just the bass note, just the root note, the 1 is the C, the 2 is the D, 3 is the E, 4 is the F, 5 is the G, 6 is the A, 7 is the B, and then back to C. So in the beginning of the video, I showed you an example of a 1, 4, 6, 5 progression, super common worship progression. So let's do that in the key of C, and I'll show you how powerful it is to be able to know the numbers and why that's so important when it comes to changing keys. So 1, 4, 6, 5 key of C is a C, F, A minor, G. But say, hey, this week a female is going to lead it, so we're going to do it in the key of G, but the same song. So 1, G, 4, C, 6, E minor, 5, D. Same progression. No matter what the key is, it's the same progression. And that's why this is one of the reasons why the Nashville Numbers is so important for worship, because we're having different worship leaders up all the time. You might play the same song 3 weeks in a row with 3 different leaders and 3 different vocal ranges, but if you get down the numbers, the way the chords move, it's the same no matter where your capo is, or if you're a keyboard player, where your hands go, it's the same progression throughout. So that's why it's such a powerful tool for us as worship songwriters and worship leaders. So now to speak specifically to worship songwriting and why the Nashville Numbers is so critical is kind of to the point we just said, the flexibility in transposing. I know there's been a ton of times where I've been in a writing situation and we're writing the song, the key just might be too high. It might be writing early and we're just not awake yet. Or the flip side, it might be too low. We want to communicate the higher energy. So when we're able to just switch around the numbers, we're not having to reinvent the wheel and understand, I don't know if I can figure that out very quick. Give me a minute. That could take over that energy. Also, communication's sake, it's so much easier. I know, especially a lot of us write on Zoom, we're writing over the internet, so it's not in the room. We're not feeling that direct in-person energy. So when we can say, hey, I'm thinking for the verse here, I'm just playing a 1, 6, 5, 4 progression, and everyone kind of gets it. We're all immediately on the same page, as opposed to trying to kind of sit around and write everything down. And that's fine. That's the way it has worked for years. But communicating through numbers is just a quicker and more flexible process. And I think it really comes down to a quick learning curve. Once you understand how these chords are working, there's an ear training that comes with that. I know for me personally, if I'm listening to a song, I can almost play a song through, almost at first listen, because I've trained my ear through the number system to know how chords work, how they move, because there's a certain way that makes you feel. If a song kind of starts off and feels moody from the top, there's a good chance that they're starting on the 6th chord, the relative minor to the major, or they might be starting on the 2 chord. In the Nashville Number System, you can always count that the 2 chord, the 3 chord, and the 6th chord are minor, while 1, 4, and 5 are major. And then the 7 is kind of the odd man out. But like I said, typically the 3 and the 7, they're known as slash chords, they're known as passing chords, but typically they're what's kind of moving between the main chords in the major scale. So let's talk about some practical examples and some songs. So one that everyone knows, and I like to use as an example because it's a repeated chord pattern, is Waymaker. So Waymaker is interesting because it actually starts on the 4 chord. So in the key of D, which is where I typically sing it, the chords go G, D, A, B minor, which is a 4, 1, 5, 6 progression. Now, no matter where you play it, no matter what key you're in, that's the same progression. So I would challenge you to look at songs that you really know. You might know them by heart and you can just play them. You don't have to think about it. It's just there. Those are the ones to start with. Trust in God by Elevation Worship, really popular song right now. Simple progression. It's key of C. It's a 1, 6, A minor, 4, and then they'll tap the 2 chord, the D minor, and they'll go back to the 4 chord. And that's basically a repeated pattern for the entire song. Another very simple song, Great Are You, Lord. So in the key of G, it's a 4, it's a 6, and it's a 5. It's the same progression through the entire thing. Once we get to the bridge, it goes to the 1 chord, but for the majority of the song, it's just 3 chords. So anybody can start to dig into what that means to play using the number system with these songs that we all already know. And like I said, I would encourage you to start slow. Start with a song that you know. And then once you kind of get that underneath your hands, then your brain will start to recognize how that song moves, and then it will apply it to others. Like I said, I can almost learn a song for the first time hearing it because my brain knows how to follow how those certain chords make us feel. Because ultimately, that's what music is it causes emotions. And the way it causes emotions is by the chords. It's by the melodies. It's by all of that, which all comes down to numbers. Even vocal melodies, you can write the numbers for how a melody is sung. So we could say, oh, I love how that Phil Wickham song or that Maverick City song or that Brandon Lake song makes me feel. Let's figure out the progression. You know, a song like Gratitude, everyone loves that song. So the main verse of that song is a 1, 6, 5, 4 progression. So if we want to write a song that kind of feels like Gratitude, we can easily start with that 6/8 meter with that 1, 6, 5, 4 progression and change the key. We're not trying to copy anything, but we want to be influenced by the references we use. And honestly, that's how so many songs are written. Someone's going to say, oh, well, I love that song. I want to write a song like that. And the natural place to start is with the progression, you know, also the topic of the song. But the progression is what makes us feel. The way the chords move is what makes the melodies go a certain way. All of that music bed is determined by the progression, and that's how the chords move. And as we understand the numbers of that, it's going to unlock our ability to instantly go to those places chordally to inspire and inform our songwriting. And don't worry, you don't have to remember all this stuff. I know we only kind of covered the key of C here, but there's going to be a link to a PDF download below where it will have all of the keys and all of the numbers that you can kind of go through. And I will say, as a side note, with capos, with guitars, it's almost like a cheat code because when you put the capo on, so say you learn the numbers in the key of G, you like the way those chords move. Well, obviously you could put your capo wherever you want on the neck of your guitar. You could play the same progressions in different keys, but it's the same chord voicings. And that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, which we'll get to. But for this video, I just wanted to point out and highlight that the Nashville Number System is an incredible tool for worship songwriters and worship teams and worship leaders. It's really not difficult to implement it. And I hope that this video helps you do just that. Like I said, click the link below and grab the free download, all of the numbers and chords written out so that you can kind of get that in front of you and start to implement that in. Also, if you could do me a favor and like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, more content focused on worship leaders and worship songwriters is coming, and I will see you on the next video.